up, everybody? It's Justin. Because we're going to be talking all about mental health. This is our mental health episode. I'll give you a couple disclaimers. I am not a doctor. Okay? Now that I have said that, I am also not a psychiatrist. Doctors are also not psychiatrists. The same way that I have told you that traditional doctors, MDs, are not nutritionists. Stop treating them like nutritionists and getting nutrition advice from them. Stop treating them like psychiatrists and getting psychiatric advice from them. Do not do that, okay? I wouldn't do it. I don't think that you should do it. Now, I also want to say, this video is not to be taken as medical advice. I am not giving you medical advice because I am not a doctor. These are strictly my opinions based on the research I have done, and I will share with you here tonight. I will give you all the facts as I have researched them, as I have discovered them. I am not recommending that anyone discontinue use of prescribed medications. If you choose to do that, you do it at your own risk. And I highly recommend consulting with a trained professional and getting proper health and wellness team. Get a team in place. My suggestion is find a functional medicine doctor, use their in-house team, and discuss these things with them, okay? Don't just listen to Justin on the internet, run out, quit your medication cold turkey. I'm not telling you to do that, okay? So at the end of this video, I'll show you how to find a functional medicine doctor, how to find your own practitioner in your area, and I highly suggest it. It's expensive, yes, but totally worth it. Also, the second part of this disclaimer, I'm gonna get very angry. Like, in researching this AMA, I feel like I need a freaking case of dry farm wines, literally. Like, I'm probably gonna yell at the screen at some point, but I need you to understand, none of this is your fault. If I get very aggressive, I'm not getting aggressive at you. I'm literally picturing an army of 1,000 of you to my right and an army of 1,000 of you to my left with 1,000,000 behind us, and we're screaming at the people who did this to you together. Tonight's episode is called Depression, a Second Opinion. So I'm gonna give you a quick summary because I'm pretty sure the summary by itself is gonna ruffle some feathers. From 1999 to 2008, the use of antidepressant medications, prescriptions, has increased by 400%. 400%, a fourfold increase in just 10 years. That's from 1998 to 2008. If you mention depression in public, 99% of people are going to say it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. That's what they're going to say. It's what they've been trained to say. They're parroting these terms, right? They're also going to parrot another cliche word that they've heard over and over, which is serotonin. They're going to talk about serotonin. They're going to talk about a chemical imbalance. The truth is, after 6 decades of research, 6 decades and countless studies, there are exactly 0 studies that link depression with a chemical imbalance in the brain. Let me word that another way. There is not a single solitary study that links depression to a chemical imbalance in the brain. Not one study. We're going to talk more about this. We're going to talk about the fact that depression treatments in America are all based on a hypothesis that's over 50 years old and has never been proven. Never. They've tried over and over. It's never been proven, right? We will go into the overwhelming data that says everything you think you know about depression is 100% wrong. Like this. Completely backwards. 100%. It's freaking ridiculous. When we talk about how the depression epidemic was purposefully allowed to happen for profit reasons, of course, we're going to talk about how this impacts your children, which is very important. We'll jump into my areas of expertise, which are lifestyle change, nutrition, things of that nature, how they impact depression, how they can help you. Okay? And I'm going to teach you a few things. We're going to talk about how we got here, the root causes of depression, how to change it, how to set yourself free, and the specific questions that I've been asked in the private groups. We got to run through the intro. My name is Justin Nault. I am a certified nutritional therapist. I am a specialist in sports nutrition. I'm also the founder of Clovis. I invented a line of nutritional powders called the Perfect Paleo Powder. Back in 2014, invented it in my kitchen. First ever certified paleo protein on the market. Beat everyone on the market with that. They're the best products in the world, hands down. And now I transform people's lives through health coaching, nutrition consulting, whatever you want to call it. Hundreds and hundreds of people, I've transformed their lives through lifestyle changes. 50 pounds in 8 weeks, 40 pounds in 60 days, 11 pounds in 7 days, you name it, I've done it. And that's what I'm trying to do tonight. Transform more lives, bring more people into the fold, try to teach you what I know in a free way so you can go out and live a healthier life for free, okay? Now, let's dive in. Depression, second opinion. We've been told by the government, the medical community, and marketing companies that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain. Now, here's the result. Here's some of the things we just talked about, right? From 98 to 08, we see a 400% increase in depression prescriptions. Antidepressants are now the third most prescribed drug on planet Earth across all ages. I'm going to talk about the age thing in a minute because that really pisses me off. Now, women, most of the Globus Academy is women. 1 in 4 of you is on an antidepressant medication. 1 in 4 of you. 25% of the population. Okay? Now remember, the vast majority of these prescriptions are written for people by their family doctor, not a psychiatrist. Hint, these family doctors have 0 training in psychiatric therapy. They're not psychiatrists. It's the same as the nutritionist thing. I've told you, I respect boxers, I respect kickboxers. I don't ask the boxer how to throw a kick. I ask the kickboxer how to throw a kick because that's his freaking specialty. They're both respected, right? Doctors are not psychiatrists, okay? Yet, get this statistic. 7% of all doctor visits ends in a prescription for an antidepressant. 7% of all. That means people are going into the doctor with a cold and walking out with an antidepressant. That's how bad that is. Of all visits for any reason, 7% of them end with an antidepressant medication. Now, let's talk really crazy shit. 15% of pregnant women are on antidepressant medications. Antidepressant medications that are clinically proven to have negative impacts on the baby inside of them. 15% have prescriptions for antidepressants. Prescriptions that were written for them by healthcare professionals. 15%, right? Now get this. This pregnancy statistic in just the last couple years has grown by 3x. By 3x in a couple of years, right? And let me tell you why. Because the pharmaceutical companies lobbied with the government and lobbied with the FDA or whoever the hell else makes these regulations. They lobbied to them to let them use to expand the scope of reach of antidepressant medications. So now they get to treat all sorts of things that aren't depression, right? They get to use these drugs for anxiety, hyperactivity, ADHD, ADD, autism, Tourette's, schizophrenia. What's the result of that? These drugs are now being prescribed to children as young as 2 years old. Sometimes you just wish fighting wasn't illegal, right? Are you with me? 2-year-olds. 2-year-olds are getting prescribed these medications. Seriously, how the hell did we get here? Let's talk about how the hell we got here. Let's just dive in. Let's start with the elephant in the room, okay? Because I know a lot of you are screaming at the screens going, Justin, of course it's a chemical imbalance. We all know about serotonin. But Justin, what about serotonin? What about serotonin? We have low serotonin. It's a chemical imbalance, right? Blah, 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 blah. The serotonin deficiency hypothesis was based on 2 observations made in completely unrelated studies. Let me repeat that for you. The hypothesis was formed on 2 observations, not studies. Observations as part of completely unrelated clinical studies in the 1950s and the 1960s. Mind you, we couldn't even look at a human cell under a microscope until the 70s. This was done in the 1950s and 60s where the serotonin hypothesis was come up with. Sounds a lot like the low-fat hypothesis, doesn't it? This shit's getting crazy, right? So the low serotonin, based on observations, not studies on serotonin. Studies on a completely unrelated thing. They were studying seizures and tuberculosis and some kind of heart disease, and they somehow came up with this ridiculous, it was high blood pressure, not heart disease, and they came up with this ridiculous serotonin hypothesis that low serotonin causes depression, right? Since then, we now have 6 decades, 60 years of countless thousands of studies Countless of thousands of scientific studies. Do you want to know what the result is? The general consensus after 6 decades of trying to prove this nonsense, right? There has never been a human study that has successfully linked low serotonin levels and depression. Never. Same goes for animal studies. There's never been a human study, there's never been an animal study that has successfully linked low serotonin to depression. Zero evidence whatsoever. I'll put this another way for you. The serotonin hypothesis is a complete and utter myth. I'm sorry. I don't know how many of you hate me now, hate me that this chemical imbalance thing is gone, that you can't say it anymore, that other people can't say it anymore. Yet the drugs we use to treat depression are literally called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. What I put over here, right? SSRIs. This is what we use to treat depression. Selective. That means it only works on the serotonin pathway, okay? So now that we know that the serotonin hypothesis has never been proven, ever, why are we still doing this? Money. Money, 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 right? That's why we're doing it. So here's the other thing. There's actually no evidence one way or the other, none, no evidence that shows that SSRIs raise or lower serotonin levels. No evidence. They don't know if it raises serotonin. Some people think that it lowers serotonin. Here's the thing. They don't actually know. The mechanism of action for SSRIs is still completely unknown. Completely unknown. Think about that. It's crazy. Now on top of it, they say that up to 80%, I'm trying to figure out how to make all this fit, right? Up to 82% of all reported benefit, patient-reported benefits from SSRIs are placebo. Estimated that 82% of benefit, patient-reported benefits from all SSRI use is 82% placebo. They don't actually know what's happening, guys. This is based on a hypothesis. It's an educated guess that has never been proven. In fact, they've been trying to prove it for 60 years. Why? Because if they could prove it, the pharmaceutical companies would make even more money. But they can't prove it. And it gets better. When we talk about serotonin is down here, it's already crossed out. There is currently no scientific way to measure serotonin levels in your brain. There's no way to measure serotonin. There's no way to measure how much serotonin is produced when you take a drug. There's no way to measure how much serotonin is produced when you're in a good mood. There's no way to measure it. The docs have been guessing this whole time. So when you have a doctor who very confidently tells you that you have a chemical imbalance in your brain, they are 100% talking out of their ass. They are making themselves sound stupid, but people don't fact check. They don't go home and do the research on this, right? But to end this section, here's a scarier point. They don't know if it raises or lowers serotonin. They don't know if serotonin is responsible for happiness. They don't know how to measure serotonin levels in the brain. They don't know how to measure serotonin production. But they do know that some data suggests that extremely high serotonin levels are actually linked to terrible things such as autism and schizophrenia. Yet we're constantly trying to spike hormone. More serotonin makes you happy. More serotonin makes you happy, right? It's crazy. We now know that high serotonin levels actually carry immense danger, okay? Now, if you stop and think about this, like everything that I just told you here, and we just went through everything that you've ever been told by the medical community, everything you've been told by your friends and family who parrot stuff, everything you've been told by the big pharmaceutical companies, everything you've been told by your government, sits right here with zero scientific evidence. It's almost comical. It's almost comical because they're destroying people's lives. That shit ain't funny. This is where we're at, right? Let me see some of these comments. I was prescribed antidepressants for migraines at 14. You see what I'm talking about? Clovis kids, parents, Clovis kids. If you are a parent and aren't in Clovis Kid, get in there. What are you doing? Get into Clovis Kids. This is how important this stuff is. When I break down the root causes of why this shit is happening, trust me, you're going to want to put your kids in Clovis Kids. Had a doctor 6 years ago convince me I was depressed and needed drugs. I threw him out of the room. Fantastic. Go look for a new doctor. That's awesome. But they do know that it increases thoughts of suicide. Yes, Lindsay, we're going to talk about that later. The suicide epidemic is real, okay? See, that's the thing, Nikki. They don't know how to measure where serotonin comes from exactly. There's no mechanism of measurement. It's produced in the brain. Now, a lot of serotonin, most of your serotonin, is actually produced in the gut. And we're going to talk about the gut microbiome later. So serotonin is something that freely floats in the body. And serotonin probably, again, hypothesis, probably comes from multiple different areas. Now, we know that there is a tremendous amount of serotonin that is produced in the gut from your gut microbiome, from a healthy gut microbiome, okay? We're going to talk about that later. We're jumping ahead of ourselves. But a tremendous amount of serotonin is produced in the gut. But it's probably also produced in the brain in some way, shape, or form. The serotonin from the gut passes the blood-brain barrier, enters into your brain, boom.